control exactly what people think, and that is our job.
Yeah.
Remember, it's illegal to possess these stolen documents. It's different for the media.
I was wondering who did that. Thanks.
Ain't nothing to it. A baby could do it.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy?
I'm a human being, god damn it! My life has value! It's time to ask yourself what you believe.
Mass murder, torture, perjury, embezzlement, fraud, deception, treason. These are just a few of your many crimes against humanity. You will not win this war, for you are fighting the very essence of humanity.
We make this judgment affirmatively. It will be an entire nation.
All right, guys, what's going on? I have Peggy Hall from The Healthy American. I've been talking about her. I've been talking about her videos, and I'm finally glad I got a chance to interview. I know you've been so busy. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get her because she's so busy. So I want to ask you, tell me a little bit about yourself, your teaching background, actually.
Well, I've been a teacher for 30 years and always at the adult level. So university, college, mainly I do teacher training. So I love to teach people how to teach. And what that means is just being able to understand things, clarify them, identify the most important things, simplify them, and get the message across in a way that people can understand. So that's kind of my superpower. And I love it. I love to learn. I love to research. I just have a mind that wants to dig deeper. I'm very curious by nature, and a little bit of a, if somebody tells me to do something, I don't say, oh, okay. I say, why? Why do you want me to do that? So,
exactly. Exactly.
So that put me in a place for what's going on now. And I also have spent many years in the health and wellness field. So I'm all about natural living, lifestyle tips for healthy nutrition, and I call it elevating your health, mind, body, and soul, a lot of emotional wellness and overcoming hardship with how you think and managing your emotions. And, it's all done kind of from a friendly perspective. Like one friend to another. Here's what I've done that works. How can I help you?
Yeah. I saw your videos, and I was like, I knew you were a teacher even before you said it. I was like, my people, because because I think you just have such a brilliant way of explaining things. And I think I have the same personality too. Even as a kid, I was like, well, why? Like, tell me why I have to, it doesn't make sense to me. If I didn't get an explanation as to why I had to do something, I would be resentful of it. And then being a teacher, it's like, I understand that about other people, and it gave me the patience and just the clarity to be able, and the will to want to be able to break down things down very simply. And I see that, like, you're structured, and I see it, and it's very simple to understand. And, it's very unfortunate. I feel that this, the public has been dumbed down so much, including myself. I don't really know about laws and stuff like that. Now, I know a lot about biology and science, and because I'm a health freedom activist as well. And that's when I kind of got my start into my channel, Truth Seeking, as I started in the health freedom movement. And it's an assault on everything. I love, not only do you talk about the laws, and you talk about, you talk about mind control, and you talk about spirituality. It's great. Like, I talk about all that stuff on my channel as well. So I wanted to know, I guess, what, I think we said this off camera, but we were talking about like how you were kind of incognito for a while. So what was the thing that made you be like, I can't anymore, I gotta bust loose? So what was the thing?
Oh, well, I'm still kind of busting out, I suppose. I just wanted to make a public service announcement to people a couple of months into this emergency situation in California, I started to connect the dots, and I thought, these things aren't adding up. I know people that work in hospitals. There are a couple that I drove by that are in my neighborhood, and I don't watch TV, so I don't go to the media. I go right to the source. So I went right to the health department information on their website, and I got all of the data of past flus and how many people died in California and in Orange County and San Diego and Los Angeles. And I'm looking at the numbers going, this is so strange. I mean, in California, nearly 7,000 people die every year of flu-related illness. And the time that I was doing my research, it was about 2,000 people. Yet the entire economy was decimated. People were committing suicide. Children were being abused. People were going hungry, losing their jobs, losing their livelihood. Businesses that they had dedicated their entire life to were being shuttered. Now, trust me, I would have been the first in line donating toilet paper if it had been a hurricane, an earthquake, devastation that I could see with my own eyes. Yeah. I would have given the shirt off my back. I would have been in line praying for people, taking their animals. I've done that. We've had fires in California. I went to the fire evacuation site, and I brought dog food, and I offered to foster the animals, and I donated food and clothing. I'm first in line, as I'm sure most people have that same feeling. But when I'm looking around going, the only thing I see is despair. I don't see any death. And not only me, but the evidence, Virstyne, the clear, I was reading the numbers, and then I thought, well, let me read the law. I'm looking at the health information. What does the law say about it? Interestingly, I do have a background in politics, but I never went into politics. It's my bachelor's and master's is in international politics, because I'm interested in societies and people, and I just like that kind of stuff. You don't have to be a lawyer. They want you to be intimidated to think you can't figure it out, but it's very simple. I went and I read the law, and it's called the California Emergency Services Act, and there's a section 8558 that talks about when a state of emergency can be called. And every state has their own law. They're very similar, but each state is governed by a governor with its own law, which is why, the president doesn't get involved and should not be involved in these matters. They're independent. And it stated very clearly that you could only have a state of emergency if there was a flood, an earthquake, bomb went off, and one of these was an epidemic. So then I had to ask myself, what is an epidemic? You're a teacher, you always want to go to the most, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? What's that definition? So I look up epidemic, and the accepted definition is an outbreak of a disease that is beyond what you normally expect. And for the state of emergency, even if you have an epidemic, it's not necessarily an emergency, only if it is so overwhelming that it's more than the state can handle. So that means the emergency rooms are being shut down, and they have to fly in workers from different countries to come do it. And they tried to make it appear that way, but many citizen journalists like me got in the car, drove to the emergency rooms, looked around, asked the questions. I interviewed doctors that worked, because some people, they're not in the emergency room. I interviewed doctors that were in critical care of well-known hospitals, that they were closing the floors. They were laying people off. So that's there's no evidence of an epidemic, and there's no evidence of a state of emergency. So I did an informational video. It was my first video on this YouTube channel, and just did it to help people, and it touched a nerve. And I continued to make videos, educational videos, and decided to have a website where people could get all the info of the links and the laws and the data. And I'm helping them understand the health orders and how unlawful they are. And that is what is now called thehealthyamerican.org. And it is an educational service, basically, for people to learn how to understand the law. We're just about to launch a opportunity for people to connect with others locally. So they can click on a link and send a message to an area coordinator and say, hey, I'm in Texas. Things are going crazy. Can you guys, let's get together. So this will help spread the wave across the country. And there's lots of good things that are coming out from it. And because of that, publicity and the videos getting a lot of airtime and a lot of, I've had a lot of opportunity for interviews, which I'm so grateful for. You know, all bets are off. I've had people unsubscribe from my wellness list. I've had a number of people question why I'm doing this. I'm kind of hanging on, you know, to one job a little bit, but I'm out in the open, and I can think of no better way to live than to be free in heart, mind, and soul. I never deceived anybody, but it was just my own private stuff. As you know, things are private. That's fine.
Yeah, no, that's great. You know, you're going to lose friends, but you're going to gain even better friends.
You're exactly right.
Yeah, I started this channel. My best friend and I started this channel with a podcast we had 10 years ago. And we, you know, just trying to inform people about simple, healthy things, you know. Didn't know that we were going to get like exiled from all of our friends. We were just being naive. Oh, what people don't know this? They don't know about nitrates and pork and bacon and stuff. We'll just post this on Facebook and like been called everything from a child killer to brainwashed. I mean, just the most horrible name. Now I can laugh about it because I just realized that's the caterpillar coming out of the cocoon, the butterfly. You know, this is what you have to endure. And I don't regret. I wouldn't go back for the world. I don't regret it at all. And I don't know if you know this about me, but in my job that I lost, I was a medical courier. So from the beginning of this pandemic, I traveled between, I would say every week, at least 10 hospitals, 3 different counties in Texas. All of them were empty. And I literally had to walk through the emergency room just about every hospital that I went to, because that's where they have the screening process set up. So I would always have to, you know, have the temperature gun taken, have to ask the questions. I had to get screened every day, like 3 or 4 times a day. And it was just like, it was so frustrating. I had to get a band to show I was screened. And, you know, it was wearing on my soul. And I always would never put the mask on the right way. I put it upside down, not put it on away, not put it on tight, you know, whatever, and take it off when I could. But as this is going on too, I was just like, I don't see anybody. I don't see, it's not overflowing. Like, what are they talking about? I sat up and watched them have a parade at one specific hospital that I went to every day. And it was a parade with people having signs and saying, oh, the nurses and doctors are doing a good job. I'm like, but there's nobody in there. Why are they having a parade? Oh, to make it look like there's something going on. But I want it to be like, there's nobody in there, like literally. And as I'm going through the screening process, I also talk to people that have had loved ones that are dying, and they're letting them in one at a time to see them. And I'm telling them, you know, and I think because they're grieving and they're scared, it's not clicking. Hopefully later they'll think about it. I'm like, I'm just letting you know that I've traveled to a lot of hospitals and there's nobody in there. And they're keeping these hospitals, they're saying that they're keeping these hospitals empty for the overflow, but there hasn't been an overflow with anybody since this has started. So I was like in the hospitals every day, and I'm just like, you know, but I knew the mask didn't work anyway. So that was very nonsensical to me. And that was another thing ever since it started, I've been like ranting about on my channel. So one of my subscribers sent me to you, and I was so glad. I was like, oh my God, you know, specifically, basically talking about the mask and the OSHA situation. Can you explain that a little bit really fast with the OSHA situation?
Yes, I will. So OSHA is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, and it is a government agency. There is a federal one. The U.S. Department of Labor oversees this, and then every state has their own OSHA. And if you own a business, like a physical business, you know about OSHA because you have to read their safety guidelines. You have to acknowledge that you understand them. There is some documentation that has to be posted visibly in your area. And this is what oversees safety in the workplace. And it's very interesting to me because what I have been doing and uncovering, and, you know, I give my opinion on things like I don't like the language, you know, like lockdown and we're in this together. And I do some videos that are sort of, well, I think they're funny. Maybe they're not funny.
No, they are funny.
I do so much humor. You know,
this is where you use your critical thinking skills.
Exactly. So, you know, some of them are funny.
As a teacher too, as a teacher, just wait, just hold up with that. Just as a teacher, I know when you're telling your students the same thing and they keep asking the same question, or they're lazy and they want you to give them the answer.
Exactly.
And you're like, no, use your brain.
Yeah,
that's what you're here for. I'm not going to give it to you.
Oh, you are so right. And it's actually better if people understand it on their own because then they actually learn it. It's kind of like when you earn money, you know, like that money has more value. And if you ever were given money, it's kind of like, oh, you can, maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but it's like, oh, I can just spend that. But when you earn the money, it has a value. When you earn the knowledge, you really get it instead of just, you know, oh, show me that. But so some of my videos are a little bit funny and all of that. But when I talk about the law, I actually am reading from the websites. So when I talk about OSHA regulations, which is a type of law, you know, I'm reading right from the website. And I also got excoriated. That video was fact checked. It was banned. It was, you know, uploaded, re-uploaded. I think somebody told me it had 1.8 million views by the time it was banned, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I was like, congratulations.
I know.
That means you're over the target. When they
exactly.
You also had somebody to write an article correcting you, so that means
exactly, which is hilarious because in the article that they, you know, correcting it, it's like, well, they used the words that I used. I mean, so I'm going to do a second one just for fun. Well, I will have fun, but it will also reinforce the fact that OSHA states that in order to have the right amount of oxygen in the atmosphere, it needs to be at 19.5% oxygen, not in your body, but in the atmosphere. All right. So there is something, I actually have one, not right here, but there's a gas monitor and it will monitor how much other gases in the air, like carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and other gases that are also in the air. I had someone send me a video and this was the first video, to my knowledge, that started this trend of people measuring the gas in their mask. And it very clearly states that shows that when you have a mask on, your, not the oxygen level in your body, but the oxygen content in the air, right here, is below what OSHA regulations state must be maintained. And it's not just random. If you go below this, you are at what they call IDLH, immediate danger to life and health, with irreversible adverse effects, which means brain damage. So wearing a mask causes brain damage if it reduces your amount of oxygen in this atmosphere. Many, many dozens of people now have been posting similar videos, which I'm so happy to see because it is irrefutable that these masks reduce your oxygen. Further, the OSHA website states that wearing the mask is not personal protective equipment and it does not protect you against COVID. End of story.
It even says it on the box that the mask comes.
It says it on the box. And,
that it doesn't protect you from
so anybody who's working in a workplace that is governed by OSHA, you can complain to your boss, or maybe there is an OSHA certified safety person who works there. Not that they work for OSHA, but they've gone through the compliance information, and you can let them know that you want to file a complaint for an unsafe workplace. Now, I'm working on this, Virstyne. I've had many OSHA safety experts contact me saying, I want to help you on this angle because it is just irrefutable. It's like trying to argue that there aren't 24 hours in a day. There are 24 hours in a day. I don't care how you spin it. I don't care how you sugarcoat it. There's 24 hours in a day. Your oxygen has to be at a certain level. End of story. I did want to go back. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, you go, because I will talk to you. I'll just make a note and you finish.
Okay, I wanted to go back to what you said earlier, which really caught my attention about you getting your temperature taken. And it's with, you called it a temperature gun.
Yeah.
I really want people to understand what's going on here. You are having a gun pointed at your forehead repeatedly. Now, you're a bright young lady, you understand how the mind works and all. This is conditioning individuals to not be, to not flinch, to not be worried when they have a gun pointed at their forehead.
Yes, no, I thought that, I know about that. I know, yeah. That's why I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
And they don't have to do that. If I take my animal to the vet, they do it in the ear, right? You can take a temperature on the ear. And secondly,
but it's still a gun being pointed at your ear.
You're exactly right. And they don't need to have it that way.
When they first started it, I was really mad. And I remember, actually, they did it under my tongue at first. They didn't have the gun. And I was like, I was like, you know what? I feel violated.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's like, violated? I was like, yes, violated. You know, because I'm not like cattle. Like,
exactly.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. This is a medical intervention. No one has a right to know your individual health status but you, not even a doctor if you don't want to share it. And to me, this is one of the worst aspects of this conditioning, is to just put your health into the hands of others. All right. Yes. Why would anyone want me to be responsible for their health? So these people that are saying, oh, you're so selfish, just do it for others, show that you care. You don't even know me. Why would you want me, that you don't even know, to be responsible for your health? Does that make sense? Do you want me to order for you at a restaurant? Do you want me to do your banking? Do you want me to why would you have a complete stranger give up your responsibility to a complete stranger? Now, this is what's called critical thinking. And individuals that have been so conditioned and manipulated with their mind and, you know, brainwashed, they are literally unable to see through that. They cannot have this conversation, and that troubles me deeply. So we need to snap them out of it in some manner so that they can have these rational conversations and make choices for themselves. I mean, that's really at the root of everything I do. It's about freedom.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? It's like these people, they don't want to take responsibility for their own health. Because I noticed too, I mean, I'm always talking about this on my channel, and I might get people that are mad at me, but I'm really passionate about health, and I've lost so many family members to complications of morbid obesity. But a lot of people that are sick are morbidly obese. And I'm like, dude, like that mask isn't going to help your health. If you're already like, you know, eating like, you know, food that's unhealthy for you and that's damaging your liver, and you're smoking. And I remember I went into a gas station, I didn't have a mask, and there was a guy with the mask, and he's like, oh, but of course he's buying the cigarettes and the liquor. I'm like, yeah, dude, that mask isn't going to help you. You know, it's like the guy that orders like 10 cheeseburgers, chili cheese fries, and then the Diet Coke. I'm like, yeah, that Diet Coke isn't, you know what I mean? Like, but they don't want it. They want a quick fix to their situation, and they don't want to take responsibility for their health. So then, you know, they see you wearing a mask, and they're going to just be, or not wearing a mask, and they're like, oh, well, you're putting me in danger. No, you're putting you in danger. Plus, if you're wearing the mask, it's the same thing as a vaccine argument. If you believe that it protects you, then why do you need me to wear one? It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
they never can give me a logical answer. They're just like, oh, well, that's just how it works. I'm like, you're just a moron. I can't.
Yeah, there is no logical answer. And sadly, if we, you know, we're teachers, so we can go back and, well, anyone can, but we think of history, right? You look at the lessons of history, and when you see what has happened in other places where people have been manipulated, they've had their mind controlled, they've had their behavior controlled. The strange thing is, the very ones that are the most compliant, the very ones that are like, okay, I'll put on the mask, I'll get the vaccine, in dire times like a revolution or war or something, they are the first ones to be done away with. They are the very first ones. I think.
And also the bad guys. And also the
That's
bad
right.
Guys. I'm looking at all of these people that claim they hate Nazis. I'm like, but you're the Nazis.
That's right.
Like, you're the Nazis. Like, I went to this anti-mask rally on Saturday, and there was a police line, and I guess they were like Antifa or whatever people. Of course, they were masked up, dressed in black. It was hot. It was super hot. It was over like almost 100 degrees. They're sweating, and they're just so like yelling obscenities to us. They're all like drab and just like, you know, vicious and stuff. And I'm looking at the people that are like without masks. They're like wearing bright colors. They're having fun. They're like, but I'm like, they literally look like the villains. And I was like, well, yeah, you guys don't even know that you're the villains, you know. You're trying to, I don't know, I think that, you know, people would like to think that they wouldn't have been on that side, but most people that just follow orders, that's what the Nazis did in the Nuremberg trials. They were just following orders. And I'm thinking about all these people that are going to have their health ruined from wearing these masks and using the poisonous hand sanitizer, you know, that are being forced to do so they feel they're going to have a lot of blood on their hands. You know,
Absolutely.
Cancer rates are probably going to soar by next year.
Oh, absolutely. Every single thing that these dictators are trying to dictate, which first of all aren't laws, so they don't have to be followed, and they're certainly not lawful. Every single one of these regular guidelines or recommendations are the exact opposite of what we're supposed to be doing. And I want to tell you something. I have a really interesting piece of information that I read that I need to find the citation for. They had volunteers, and they actually, it was a controlled study, and they divided the group in half, and it was quite a large number. I think it was like almost 200. I have to get the exact numbers, but the principle is the same. And they took a virus, and they actually inserted the virus, 2 viruses in the person's nose, and half of the people were isolated, and the other half of the people got to be with other people and be with each other and all of that. The only ones who got the virus were the ones who were isolated.
Yeah.
Because being with people elevates your immune response. Being happy elevates your immune response. People wearing a mask are so fearful that it is driving up their cortisol, their adrenaline, which drives down the immune response. Yeah. You don't see a smile. Smiles help society. That's why we have a face. And I mean, even our animals smile. You're like, oh, look, my dog is smiling. Yeah. We like it. And to obstruct that it's very evil, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and
it is.
I mean like demonic evil. It's like,
no, I'm
horrible.
I'm there with you.
I don't like it at all. I don't like being with people that are wearing masks. You know, it's their choice if they want to. I'm still all about choice. But I choose not to be with them. I choose not to go to those stores.
It's like
I'm just not going to participate. Yeah. It harms my soul to see the compliance, the non-thinking, the ritualistic appearance of obscuring your facial features. Every single state that I've seen so far, that I've looked into so far, has a law, an actual law, not guidance, an actual law on the books that says you cannot conceal your identity. You can't put on fake whiskers and a hat and big glasses if you are going to, like you want to do something like an evil deed or something. You cannot conceal your identity. Yeah. Now they want us to conceal our identity. Very not good.
You know what else I was glad for? I was happy to hear you say in one of your videos is I used to work with special ed, and I know a lot of autistic children, they actually have to take classes in order to read people's facial expressions, because it's so, you know, like they have to, like those cards, you know, like they're like, this is happy, this is sad, this is angry, you know, because their brain's damaged. They don't even have that ability. They don't understand when they're seeing things. They have to really work hard to try and understand facial expressions. So somebody that's autistic and somebody that's deaf that depend on this for survival and for communication, they're also not taking that into consideration. They're not taking claustrophobic people into consideration. They don't care about, you know what I mean? So when you said that, I was like, yes, I was thinking the same thing. And then I had a subscriber write to me, and she was saying that her boyfriend was deaf or is deaf. And he just hasn't even gone out since this. He's just been like in the house because he can't even like communicate to anybody, you know?
That is so heartbreaking to me. Yeah. That the bigger picture, Virstyne, is like society as a whole, well, those that are complying, they are determining whose life has more value than another's. That's how I interpret it.
Exactly.
Like, why does that deaf person's life not matter as much as just a regular person trying to shop, you know, has the mask on at the grocery store? Why is that guy with the mask on? Why does his life matter more than your individual here that has hearing impairment? Why do the lives of everyday people matter more than my seniors that I used to teach exercise to? Now they have to stay at home, and they exercised in the water because they couldn't walk. They had knee replacement, hip problems, back problems, foot problems. Why doesn't their life matter? And who gets to decide that? So to me, this is the most troubling of it all. I don't want to wear a mask. I never have. I don't plan to. But, you know, that's really not the issue. The issue, that's a symptom. The issue is who is making these decisions, by what authority. There's certainly no moral authority or ethical authority. And why not? What is stopping the next logical extension to say, well, Virstyne, you're healthy. You've got 2 kidneys. That is so selfish of you. You are so, you never think about others. Now, in order for you to be able to go shopping at Costco, you have to demonstrate that you donated a kidney.
Yeah, pretty much.
How is that not an extension of what we're going through? And I am completely serious.
Yeah, no, you know, when I got fired last week, you know, I was telling this to them, and I caught this on tape, but since I don't think I'm going to post it right away because I'm looking for legal representation. But I was basically saying, you know, it's very like discomforting that I could possibly be a patient at your hospital. I'm telling you that I have, you know, medical issues. I'm a severe asthmatic. I can't wear this, you know, these masks. And they just didn't care. They didn't care. They're just like, oh, well, we're trying to protect the patients here. I was like, well, I'm a person too. So I can possibly, this is the guy told me, you're going to get kicked out of this. I was like, I can possibly be a patient here. So what were to happen if I were to end up as a patient as a result of wearing the mask? And he was saying, oh, well, we just give you oxygen and then we put the mask on top of the oxygen mask. Oh. I was like, that's stupid. I straight up was like, that's stupid. That's ridiculous. Why would you do that? And I'm like, the point is actually not to be a patient at all, but these masks don't work. And they have heart patients wearing these masks at heart hospitals. And it's like doctors, they're so brainwashed. They just, you know, and a lot of people in the medical field, I believe they want to have good intentions. They want to, you know, they want to do a good thing. But they're training, you know, they're just sleep deprived. They're on all these like, either if it's not caffeine or stimulants to stay up, it's stuff to go sleep. It really messes with your brain. And then they just take orders without thinking through, you know? And it's really disturbing. And I'm like, I told one nurse, because we got into it, I was like, yeah, that's why you're the 3rd leading cause of death. Just saying, you know? I'm like, I'd rather take my chances with Corona than the hospital, because he got so mad. But I was just like, I couldn't help it. Like, you know, and at that time, it wasn't even about the mask. I was just asking him questions because I was saying, I have a friend that was a medical journalist, and he actually did a research on the PCR test. So I knew even before they were using it for Corona that they were inaccurate and they gave false positives, and that they don't test for a virus when they look under the microscope. They test for like proteins. So I was asking the nurse about that. I was like, well, is there any other test? Or I was like, I know these tests are inaccurate. And he's like, yeah, no, they're very accurate. How dare you? How dare you? And he like took me outside and tried to talk to me like I was a teenager. Like I didn't know what I was talking about, but he couldn't like compete with the information that I had. And he just got so mad. Like there's nothing that he could have done. But that's another thing too, that you talk about too, that we shouldn't be afraid to question things and ask questions. And we've also been conditioned to, you know, just capitulate to people that have degrees. Like they're better people, not even that they're more learned in a subject, but they're just better human beings. And it's so freeing to be over that and realize that that's not the case. The information you talk about, the information I talk about, I'm always trying to get away or get over to my subscribers that this is public information. You have the right to know what's going into your body and how your body works. The only reason why people like doctors are doctors is because they have the clinical training. That you can't, you know, practice medicine on people because you don't have that clinical training, but you have the right to have the knowledge that they have. It's okay, you know? And I think a lot of people don't even realize that, not only with medicine, but with law and any other thing. But all this is public information.
Well, you're so right, Virstyne, and this is a technique of the enemy, and those that want to ridicule and belittle and demean others will often make a personal attack, and it will be along the lines of, well, are you a doctor? Well, are you a lawyer? And it's like, no, I am an individual, and more power to me and you and others, because you are not influenced by that type of training. And you mentioned something so interesting about the sleep deprivation of the doctors. I read a blog by a doctor that got out of conventional medicine, and he spoke about that very clearly, how he felt that he was getting into a mind control, brainwashing type of atmosphere, especially with the sleep deprivation. Wouldn't you think that a medical doctor who is going to be responsible for your medical care at an emergency room, for example, wouldn't you have these doctors kind of like truck drivers where they can only drive for 4 hours or something, and then they have to take a break? You know, it's limited. I don't know the exact number of hours. But if I was a hospital administrator, I would have an ER doctor working for 4 hours, kind of like, you know, in baseball, you switch out the pitcher. You don't keep them in there for the whole game because they get tired. They're going to make mistakes. Not only do they keep these guys, 12 hours a day, back to back, sleeping at the hospital. Why? And hardly any of these doctors even question it, but this guy did. And I've heard the same in some other professions as well, where they could tell that they were being indoctrinated. And I know it happens with teachers for sure, in a certain way of acting and of delivering the information. So if anything, being outside of that can be an advantage. So somebody like you or me just reading the law, like we're reading it just as it lays. We're just like reading it. We're not trying to twist it or manipulate it because we weren't taught how to do that in law school. So it's actually to our advantage learning about the body. Like anybody can learn about the human body. Yeah, maybe you're not going to be doing surgery on somebody, but you can learn about biology and chemistry and the functions of the body and viruses and bacteria and all of that. It's the knowledge is available. The information is available. I was going to say one more thing that really bothered me is you said that they had people applauding all of the healthcare workers, and just that elevate. I personally don't care to elevate one profession above another. So we're teachers. You know what? Somebody else is a mechanic. Somebody else is a plumber. Somebody else is a brain surgeon. Somebody else is an airline pilot. Somebody else is a gardener. What, does it mean they're better than you are? No, it's different interests, different education. I reject this calling healthcare workers heroes. My mom was an emergency room nurse for 40 years. She was on the front lines. I never called her a hero. She wasn't. She was doing her job. She chose that profession. So I reject that, and here's why. Down the road, they are conditioning us to trust these doctors, no matter what, that they're right, that they can poke and prod and put a gun to your head, and like you are used to it. I'm not going to be used to it, and I reject it.
It's a tier system, you know, like, before I discovered the arts, because I consider myself a teacher and an artist, I was actually kind of in pre-training to be a doctor. I wanted to be a doctor. I went to like a gifted school. And even then they actually, now that I'm looking back on it, sleep deprivation, they would give us so much homework. We were being prepared to take tests. We were being like, like from, I wouldn't get home until, I wouldn't finish my homework probably until midnight and have to get up at 5 o'clock the next day in class all day. And then this was just junior high. So I can get into a medical magnet, so I could go to a good college, so I can get into medical school. It starts back, and even as a gifted student, they tell the gifted students that they're better than everybody, that they're special, that they work hard. We got all of the new computers, we got all the new stuff, we got to go on all the field trips. And I'm like comparing it to the doctors that, you know, get these vacations with the pharmaceutical company, and they get, you know what I mean? It's the same thing. It's like it starts way, way back. Now that I've thought of, you know, kind of looking back, I'm like, oh, thank God I veered it off into the artist. I don't know where I would be, but yeah, I mean, sleep deprivation and just memorizing, regurgitating information at an early age. And I really felt like my brain was starting to change. I was being pushed into like the left side thinking. And I noticed a lot of people too in that, you know, they can't make whole brain decisions. And even as a teacher, because I taught for LAUSD for 8 years, I taught South Central, East LA. Then I moved to Taiwan for 2 years. So I thought it would be better in Asia. No, it's a different set of problems. But I had this one parent, and I've said this, I've taken this phrase because she said it perfectly, but she was like, yeah, I don't want my child to be a test-taking machine. And Asians are, I know I'm being, you know, but this is from my, observation. They're, you know, I mean, the kids that I would teach, even so when I came back, I taught at a Chinese prep school for almost 3 years. And my kids were, some were American Chinese, some were straight from China. And they would go to regular school, like at 7 o'clock, they would come to the Bushy Band where I taught for 3 extra hours of extracurriculars and English. Okay. Then they would go like either do piano or violin or whatever, and then they would go to sleep. And then on Saturdays, they would go to Chinese school. So it's like they never, and it was all about their test scores. It was all about their test scores, you know? And it was just like, and I love those kids. And another thing too that really ticked me off is I found out that they get their points taken off if they're Asian of college, for the Cal system. So that's what, they start studying for the SAT from the time they're like 13, 14. They're taking extra SAT classes. They're just working their butts off. And I know my kids work their butts off. So I'm like, I don't care what race you are. If you work your butts off, then you should get the reward. But I also saw that a lot of these kids had no creativity. They had no time to be themselves. They were just being trained to be robots. It was heartbreaking, you know? But I see that, and a lot of them go into these, that's like the formula for getting into, then you go to medical school, then you go into blah, blah, blah. And you're constantly being trained and told that you're better than everybody. You've worked hard. And, you know, there's part of you that's like, well, yeah, I've sacrificed my life, my childhood in order to get this. So I get what I deserve. I am better than all these people, you know, not that it's true, but that's what's that's what the system is teaching. And then other people outside of that, they look up to them and they're like, yes, you did sacrifice everything. Yes, you went to school. You are better than me. Because I even have some people that are like super intelligent and they're like, well, I'm not a doctor. I'm like, but you're probably smarter than a doctor. Like, you know what I mean? Like without even knowing it. But there are people that think they're being virtuous by humbling themselves, by not challenging these authorities, because they have it in their mind that they're lesser people than them. So it kind of works both ways.
Right. You know? And that's been drummed into us that, elevating others one above the other, and it's very, very destructive. And it is one of the tools of the enemy, which is divisiveness, division, and pitting people against each other. And that's why this whole mask thing, it's like so easy to see. I mean, it's brilliant in a way as far as how horrible it is. Yeah. Because like, let's say, you know, we were outside eating at a restaurant, you wouldn't know just, you know, by looking if somebody is conservative, liberal, you wouldn't know that, but immediately you know the mask. I mean, it is just crazy. And to me, that's part of the
agenda.
The agenda and the horrible aspect of it. And my heart actually breaks for those that are so weak-minded or so manipulated or so living in fear. And I have extended family members that are still staying at home. This is 4 months later, wearing a mask. I don't want to go get the COVID. And it's like, so you're never going to live again. You're killing yourself. Life is so valuable that you don't want to lose it, that you're not living it. I mean, the hypocrisy is beyond my ability. It's startling. You know, it's not really living. And
it's really a spiritual war because people are going to have to really look inside for answers. And like I don't watch TV really either. I don't have a TV. I don't own a TV. But I have a friend, her family barely even watches the internet. And she homeschools her child, and she didn't know like the first week about COVID. She goes to the store and everybody's wearing masks. And she's like, what's going on? Like, what? And they're like, yeah, it's the COVID. And they're like, what? What are you talking about? You know? So, I mean,
my gosh. Yeah.
It's funny that like, if it was so deadly and they didn't have a mask, you know, for a week, they would have been dead. So is the homeless population. They don't have sinks. They're not, you know, and I tell that to people and their eyes just glaze over. Like I'm like, oh yeah, but we're gonna die. I'm like, but the homeless population has not, like, they're still here. We still have the homeless problem in Austin. I'm just saying.
You know what people told me on that one, Virstyne, because I'm the same way. Like the very first beginning, I'm like, well, how are they gonna make the homeless stay 6 feet apart? And how do they wash their hands? And the people said, well, they probably have really good immune systems because, you know, it's rough living outdoors. And I was like, they'll spin it in any way that they can, which is ridiculous because they are the most vulnerable. They have the worst immune systems, and many of them, they have poor nutrition, poor hygiene, all of the
deprivation.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, you know, the writing's on the wall. Anybody who still believes that this is a deadly pandemic, they are not getting the correct information. And the other thing is, some people actually want it to be worse because then they could justify what they went through.
Yes.
So
not take responsibility for their life.
Yeah, they
don't like themselves or their lives anyway. So they're like,
that's right. So they want something like it's thrilling. They're a part of something. You know, I know some people that really wanted the numbers to be higher. It was like they were disappointed. Like, well, it's not over yet. Well, it's like, well, I'm bringing you good news that it's so mild, and they just want to argue that.
No, it's so funny because I was talking to a nurse, and I was like, when the first wave was supposed to hit, and I was like, yeah, so the hospitals are still empty. I'm like, what do you think about that wave that's supposed to come? Oh, it's coming in 2 weeks. It's coming. I was like, are you sure? I was like, I don't think it's coming. And he was like, no, it's coming. I'm like, you're saying it like you want it to come. He's like, oh, no. I'm like, I'd rather it not come, wouldn't you? He's like, yeah, I guess. I'm like, all right, well, you don't, you seem like you want to see a bunch of people dying. Thank God that really didn't happen. It would have been horrible. You know, and I have a cousin that was diagnosed with it. I haven't really talked to him about what he thinks about it. But he was diagnosed with COVID, but he had a heart attack and 2 blood clots. So it's like, really? Like, come on. Who has been diagnosed with COVID that hasn't had any underlying, you know, condition? And my friend's grandmother too. And she,
I was going to say, according to our health officer, he even confirmed that if you go in with an appendicitis attack, they're going to test you. And then if you have you know, even though we know the tests aren't accurate, they'll put you in the COVID area and they will count you as a COVID patient, even though you didn't go into the hospital for that. So yeah, all the double counting, the misdiagnoses, and yeah, nobody just has.
My cousin's friend works at a morgue, and I wouldn't say that my cousin is aware of all the stuff that we're even talking about, but she did tell me this. She was like, yeah, my friend works in a morgue, and there was a gangbanger that came in. He got diagnosed with COVID-19, but the gunshot went to the head. COVID-19.
Yeah.
All those memes are actually accurate. Those funny memes where you
crazy
by sharks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, because I remember I talked to you on the phone a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about the science, and you're like, I'm not going to argue about the science anymore because they can get their fake scientists to write counter articles. I was like, yeah, you're right. They totally do that. And it's interesting. What they'll do is like, maybe we'll find an article that was published 5 years before this even, you know, happened, supporting our theory. And then 2 weeks a few days after it makes the internet circulation, magically there's another scientific article that refutes that. I'm like, come on, like, can't you see, like, look at the dates on the studies. Now once it gets like, 100 million views or whatever, now there's an article refuting that. Like, don't you know how corrupt the medical industry is? And I know there's this Dr. Jim Meehan, who actually, I would really like to interview him too, but he actually used to be an editor for a medical journal. And he would even say that how the medical journals are controlled by the pharmaceutical industry, because like they would have doctors that would be anything or scientists that would publish stuff contrary to the pharmaceutical industry, and then they would kill the story. They would kill the publishing, the findings or whatever. So I wanted to say the OSHA angle was very brilliant on you, because if they're going to change that, they're going to have to change the whole scale of what they is considered safe.
Exactly. And the thing about those articles being changed and all, it even when they change them, gives more evidence to the fact that the science is there, because the fact that they have to go around and scrub it and change it, it was like trying to do the fact check on my video. If they had left it alone, maybe not that many people would have seen it, but you bring it into the forefront and people are going to go, well, wait a minute, that article said this and that. So the thing with the science is, it is also, it's true. And I believe that most people understand that masks don't work. They can cause problems. People who want to wear them like a safety blanket, go wear them, but stay away from me because they're full of germs. So the science, I feel, has been covered in great detail. It's very divisive. It's very emotional.
And it's been politicized too.
That's right. But when it's a distraction, because the point of the crux of the matter is this: there is no law that states you have to wear a mask. If they gave me a diamond encrusted gold leaf mask that was worth $1 million and told me to wear it for 1 month and I could have $1 million and I would live to be 120 years old with this magic mask, I still don't have to wear it because it's not a law. And all of everybody, and really good people, I mean, really educated, smart, clear, compelling individuals arguing about the science, like, this is where the issue is. The issue is no one can make you wear a mask. It is a medical intervention. You cannot be forced into an individual health behavior masquerading as a public health behavior. They have distracted us from the actual issue at hand, which is this: no health officer, I don't care if they signed it, I don't care if it's stamped and sealed and published, I don't care. It is unlawful, and here's why. A public health officer only has the authority to issue a public health order, meaning for the public. What does that mean? That means there's a chemical explosion nearby. They have to quickly evacuate the area. They don't have time to go get a court order or make a new law. So they have a limited authority to issue a very specific public order with the most limited duration. By law, it has to be limited. In some places, it's like 24 hours, 48 hours. In California, it's 7 days, and then you have to get it approved. So it's not one person can just tell you what to do, but they're making it appear that way. So by telling a neighborhood, like, you guys have to evacuate, there's a chemical explosion, or there was an earthquake, there's downed power lines, everybody out of this area. They have the authority to issue a public evacuation. They can tell people to not drink the municipal drinking water, because it's contaminated. That's like a public action, right? Mm-hmm. But wearing a mask is an individual health behavior. It would be like saying you have to go to bed at 10 o'clock at night. You have to walk for 30 minutes every day. You have to eat 5 servings of vegetables, and they have tried to tell us this. And those all might be great ideas, but they are not laws. Only a law compels your behavior. Now, I don't run through a red light. Well, I don't drive through a red light because it's not safe, but I don't drive through a red light because I don't want to get a ticket. Now, the policeman isn't the one who made the law. The policeman is not stopping me from running a red light. We think it's the policeman. No, the law prevents you from running the red light. He's going to write you a ticket, but he doesn't prevent you from doing it. I am going to shout this from every rooftop because this is the crux of the matter. There is no law that allows somebody to take your temperature. And these people are doing it. They're breaking the law. In fact, they're breaking your health privacy law. There is no law that allows any clerk at CVS to make you put on a mask. It is ludicrous. And that's why I don't want to talk about the science. I don't want to talk about, well, maybe I'll use a thin, no, that's not the issue. The issue is this is illegal. It is unlawful. Would you stop falling for it? I've had it. I just have had it with this. You want to wear a mask, you go wear a mask. You want to smoke cigarettes, you smoke cigarettes. You want to drink bourbon, you drink bourbon. You want to stay up till midnight, you stay up till midnight. You want to wear a pink sweater, you want to wear a red whatever, fine. These are individual choices. No public health officer has any lawful, now they may have tried to push it through, but it's not lawful. It violates established law. Namely, our Fourth Amendment, our Constitution, is that we have privacy in our person, in ourself. Nobody can come take my temperature if I don't want them to. And there's no law that can stop me from going into that place of business. It's the exact opposite. Yeah. You cannot discriminate against someone from coming into your business establishment. I don't care if it's private. I don't care if it's a hospital. I don't care if it's a bar. I don't care if it's a bowling alley. If you are operating an enterprise that serves the public, you may not discriminate on certain things. Your sex, your ethnic background, your religion, your health condition, period. End of story. So Virstyne, this is where I'm just like camping out. I'm going to camp out on the law. Now, they may try to make a law, and that will get interesting because that will get a lot of people involved. And there are courts. Just because you make a law doesn't mean it's valid. We have a court system. And then the court, you can bring that law to the court and go, hey, this doesn't look right. And then they will evaluate it. That's the simple structure of government we have. We have a legislative body that makes laws, not one individual. That's called a tyranny. That's called a dictatorship. That's called communism or fascism or whatever you want to call it. It's not a republic, which is what we have. And I will continue to educate and speak out about this. As some of my people said, all the way to heaven, I'm marching this all the way to heaven. I will never stop talking about it. Yeah. And if they want to try to impose,
basically, I believe. So that's why I really, when I say stuff, I click with you. It goes deeper than safety.
It's totally.
Yeah. Yeah. And then who's after the mask? Are you just going to line up for the vaccine? You know, I'm not.
The very people who are so afraid if you don't have a mask because they don't want to get the virus by you looking at them.
But they're going to have one injected.
They're going to get it injected into their body. I want to have a conversation with someone on that. I hope someone will explain it to me. I mean, how does getting it injected into your body, whatever it is, how is that superior to you just, why wouldn't you die from this if you think you're going to die from like it in the air? Like something in the air is a lot less concentrated than whatever they're going to put in your body. And we know they're going to be putting other things in your body. Why would you do that? I really would like an answer. If anybody wants to email me or hop on Facebook, tell me why you're afraid of breathing the same air 6 feet away from me. On the off chance you might be exposed, but you want a concentrated amount injected into you. I'm waiting to find out what someone will say.
Fetal tissue cells and mercury.
And tracking and nanobots and all of that other stuff. And how about this, Virstyne? So if you can just breathe, now they say like if you sing or you talk, because that'll be the next thing. No talking. That's coming up. They started with the mask, then they started no singing. Next, it will be no talking. You'll have to like do texting or something.
No singing? Where? In church?
In California, the guidance, of course, people think it's a law. The guidance says no singing because you're having your aerosol sprays coming out.
Oh, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm a singer.
So no singing. Next, it will be no talking. And of course, they want no living. They really want people just not even to exist, which is the actual end goal.
They're going to bring in the AI and they don't want it.
Here's my question. If singing is so dangerous and they want you to be tested, why don't they just hold the cotton swab and you go, la, 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 la? Can't they just test you like this? Why do they have to put something up your nose if it's so, my God, you might get sick by singing. Yeah. Can't you just be tested?
It looks like they're trying to infect you with something where they're sticking it all the way down your nose.
I'm not going to participate.
Yeah, I'm not going to take the test either. That's my line. That's my line. The test and the no vaccine. I mean, I kind of did the mask for a minute. I kind of halved it, but then I'm not doing that. I'm not doing the test.
You know what? You did what you needed to there. That's why we're fighting this fight. I have a great deal of empathy for people that are earning a living. They're required to wear the mask. Yeah. We're trying to free them from that, you know, and this is not their battle right now. And that's okay. They can do other things. They can write letters. They can go to the protests, whatever. But I have a great deal of empathy, and some people have that line is closer. Others are like, you know what, let me just save up a little more money and maybe I can find another job. Yeah. I get it. I you know, no guilt, no
no judgment. Sure.
No. They're all hands on deck. Everybody's
every day though, Peggy, I was like, I felt like my soul was getting chipped away because I see the bigger picture, and it was like I just, you know, I didn't like it. And it was like, you know, and I had one of the routes that I really liked, and I made friends. There was this lady and she was older. She's like, oh, this is the new normal now. I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not. You don't have to comply. And it was weird because she wasn't like offended, but it was just like, you know, this light bulb went off in her head. I was like, yeah, you just say no. And it doesn't have to be the new normal. That's it. It's just that simple. It's like when Dorothy said the Wizard of Oz, and she finds out, like, you know, she could go, she already always had the power to go home. It's like that, you know. I'm like, well, you know, so I think we're also dealing with a lot of people that they're brainwashed by the media, by appeal to authority. I always say that I think that's one of the biggest problems we have in society ever. Because even when I was becoming conscious to a lot of this, like 10 years ago, I kind of went through, like, you know, the Kubler-Ross stages of death, where it's like anger, bargaining, denial, acceptance. I feel like it's kind of like that. And a lot of people, they're kind of like in denial, right? And they're just like, no, the government wouldn't lie to me. Anderson Cooper wouldn't lie to me. Like, the people, and then they'll say stuff like, how is everybody in on it? But they don't understand compartmentalization. They don't understand how people just take orders and not really think about what they're doing. And then the people that we call the useful idiots that just basically, they carry out their plan because they're people that want to do good and they think they're doing good, but they're being tricked into doing the opposite. So
that is so true. And that is very powerful. And my view on that, Virstyne, when you're talking about the appeal to authority, you know, I'm a person of faith, so I believe in God, and I believe in God's authority and God's law, and I feel, you know, and not even feel, like I know that my life has meaning. Each individual's life has meaning. It's not an accident. It's not random. It didn't just happen. And because I believe that, my authority is from God, and to live, and I certainly, you know, don't do it well. I mean, I've got a lot of faults and flaws, you know, due to my human nature, but that's my guidepost. That's my direction. And I've noticed that for many people who don't have that faith, that they believe in something bigger than themselves, that they are still searching for that. And they find it in government or authority, because we were born. That's right. We were born, we are spiritual beings. I mean, there is it would be very hard for me to believe that someone never had that thought of, is there more to life than this? And why am I here? Where did I come from? Where am I going? I mean, to me, these are thoughts that I've had all my life. I'm curious and engaged and interested, and I can't wait to find out what's next. But so within us, we have that desire, I believe, for this greater authority and direction and inspiration and protection and wisdom and all of that. So if you don't have that in a supernatural way, you will look for it from the media to tell you what to do. Yeah. I don't know, an abusive authority spouse to tell you what to do, yeah. An authoritarian doctor or government agent to tell you what to do. So that my heart breaks in that respect. And there are even people who will look to their pastors. Like, I'm only going to do what my pastor says. Well, your pastor's another human being.
I know.
It's great that you respect them and want to learn from them. And, we're all here to help learn and grow and share. But again, sometimes that loyalty is misplaced in my view. And so my deepest hope, my deepest prayer of all of this is that people will recognize the flawed nature of humanity and realize that there is a deeper spiritual connection and God that loves them, and to feel peace and hope, to let go of the despair. And one of the antidotes that I would recommend is to get with like-minded individuals. And over at my website, thehealthyamerican.org, we're putting people together in their local communities. And you don't even have to be active if you don't want to. This is just so that you can email somebody or text somebody and say, hey, is there a meeting going on? What's happening? What did you hear? How do you make sense of these orders? Where can I go shopping without a mask? There is unity in community. And that's why the New World Order, again, it's almost like a demonic, brilliance in a way, that they seek to get rid of the most local entities of family and friends and connection and make it be this big global thing like you don't even know. And I've lived all over the world. I mean, I love travel and different cultures and all, but where I live in Orange County, I mean, it's even different than Texas. It's different than New York. It's different than San Francisco. And to imagine that one entire world is going to be unified, and heck, I can barely get, my husband to put the dishes in the dishwasher the way I like it. How could we have a global community of harmony? It does not make sense to me. We want to be local, the smallest units possible. Like, get to know your neighbors. Hop on board thehealthyamerican.org. We'll get you with like-minded people. You need to keep your morale up so that you don't feel despair.
That's another game that they want us to, because that's how they can take control. Yeah, definitely. I always add humor and try and be a little goofy on the channel because of that. But it's healing. It's healing.
It is. It's so healing. We need that. We need that so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Peggy, I know time's almost up. Is there anything else you would like to add before you go? I think you kind of missed out, but if there's anything else you want to add.
Oh, well, this has just been a great chance to reconnect with you. And I really admire what you're doing. And I love that. We do need the humor. We need to stay lighthearted. Yes, you spoke about the despair and the grief, and that's so true. Many, many people are gripped right now with really, as you say, denial. They are in denial. They are in shock as to what's happened to our country. Even those that might be fighting to take the freedom away, they really are in a type of denial and shock, and it will wear off, as any type of grief has its stages. And then there is a deep sorrow, a deep sadness, and there is anger, and there is guilt and regret. And so I want to keep that outstretched hand for those lost individuals that are still ridiculing those of us that aren't wearing a mask and saying that we're trying to kill grandma. And, the government is really saying that. But
somebody told me that 2 days ago.
Yeah, well,
my grandma.
Who's killing grandma are the criminals that are keeping her locked in the nursing home and won't let you see her. How do we know what's happening to grandma behind closed doors?
Yeah.
I mean,
no, it actually happened to my friend's grandma.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
This is where my heart breaks. And
yeah.
so those individuals may have an experience like this, where maybe it's their grandma that, you know, has some horrible incident behind closed doors, and that may snap them out of it. My hope is that those individuals, even the evildoers at the government level, it's not too late. It's not too late for their redemption. It's not too late for them to snap out of their trance and say, what have I been doing? I thought this was for good. And I have seen it, Virstyne, because we had some, and if you look at your local area, there's been a lot of turnover in the health department. And I believe it's because many of these individuals are not okay with what they've been asked to do, that they do.
Yeah, I've talked to some of them. I know. I even have a friend that's, I've talked to more nurses and other staffs, but he is another courier, and he has actually talked to some doctors, and they're freaking out because they want to leave, but they don't want to get blacklisted. So they're like, okay, well, how can we leave and not have the administration like ruin our lives? The control is so scary, you know? So they have to like kind of comply and just be like, okay, we're going along with it, but this doesn't make sense, you know, like
it's very troubling that there is that type of control. And again, that's where each individual needs to determine for themselves where their line is. And I understand it's easier if someone you know, has a family and they don't need to rely on earning a livelihood, and they can leave the job. You know, if someone that's on their own and it's like, this is really scary, what am I going to do? So that's again where I want to leave our talk today with: build the communities, develop these new friends. You may be the home where they're going to come stay with you for a while, or you may go stay with them, or, you know, they may share some of the food that they have stocked up on, and vice versa. These are new times that we are in. I'm very optimistic by nature. I would love to see the day where I never have to go to Costco again, you know, where I don't have to rely on you know, the big hospitals and so forth, but there's local clinics, there's local like-minded individuals, and this may happen the way that we're going. So that's my advice. Get stocked up, get yourself prepared. That is going to give you a great deal, peace of mind, knowing that you don't have to go shopping all the time, and have like-minded individuals that you can connect with. And to me, that's where we find our unity in community. Do not let them take that away. Continue, you know, physically being close with people, hugging, seeing them. These are the ways that we can continue to keep our rational thinking mind and our sanity in these stormy seas.
Thank you so much, Peggy. Find Peggy at thehealthymerican.org.com, because I first looked up .com and you were there. I was like, oh my God, they attacked your site.
Well, they are trying it from all angles. So I do have a couple backup sites.
I wanted to ask you, do you have a backup channel with all your videos so they can?
I am at Chute also. So Healthy American Peggy Hall, and then on YouTube, and some of the videos are at the website. So I've got them all tucked away and secure for when that time comes. That's a great.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. Mwah. I'm so glad we connected. My soldier in this fight, right? And
absolutely, Virstyne, such a pleasure.
I will talk to you later. Okay, peace to you later. Bye. Oh, wait.